This is a video tutorial for how to use watercolor pencils. All right, so I'm going to show you a couple different techniques on how you can use watercolor pencils in your journals, or if you're doing a separate piece on a different piece of paper, just how you can use watercolor pencils in general. So I have my bucket of watercolor pencils. There should be one of these for each of your tables. So if you are using them and other people are using them at your table, you can share, because sharing is caring. I also have my cup of water and a paintbrush. Okay. So I'm going to show you the first technique for watercolor pencils, which is pretty simple. You use your pencil just like you would any normal colored pencil. So I'm going to start drawing some lines or shapes. Okay, I like to draw, especially because I use these a lot for my visual journal. I like to draw different shapes to help create some structure. And notice how I'm also, once I've created my shape, I'm not just doing a plain line like this. I want to use a lot of color, because if you think about it, this is where all the color is coming from when you're doing watercolor pencils. So the more color you get down there in the beginning when you're coloring, the more it will show up in your actual, when you put the actual water on. So I'm going to do something like this. Maybe I'll have some other colors just to show you some different things. Okay, and I really am putting a lot of color on there. And I kind of mimic what I want the watercolor to do with my colored pencil. So I'm also not being super precise, which you can be, but I am not a super precise person, so my watercolor pencils are not super precise. So I'm also gonna think about maybe blending some colors on some sides, so I'm just gonna add a little bit over here. We'll see what that does. And then maybe I will, I'm not sure. Let's do some green and see what happens. All right, so I've got a few different things here. Maybe I'll fill this one in and see. Alrighty, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'll take my water cup, and I don't need too much water, and I'm just gonna start painting on top. And what you'll see is that the pencil will start to be activated by the water, and I will just kind of use my brush to pull that color out of the water. Okay, and you can see where I've started to mix my colors, how that has changed the color of the water here. I don't know if there's a glare and you can see it, but I'm just going to do that. And the way I like to do these shapes is I'm pulling the watercolor out from the middle. So I'm leaving that middle part instead of just washing over completely with water. This kind of creates a more dynamic effect, especially if you are doing this in your journal. So I might make it more like blotchy on this side just for fun. So if I was just to go over straight like this, that's also fine, but it's more exciting when you are kind of pulling the color from somewhere. So I'll do the same thing on my orange here. Right. Now I'm going to leave one of these sides blank, because I do want to show you how you can use a magic marker in the same way that I just did with the water. You can also use a magic marker. So I like to use the yellow one because it kind of blends really well with the other colors, and it's light so you can see through. But you could think about, your color wheel and what colors mix well together. And I'm going to just do the same thing that I would do with a paintbrush, except I'm using my magic marker. And because it's a magic marker, it has water in it, so it's kind of doing the same thing. It's still activating that watercolor pencil and kind of blending it, but in a different way. So now I've kind of created a different effect here than I have with my watercolor. So I also like to, when I'm done with this, because I've now basically ruined my yellow magic marker, is I'll actually dip it in a little bit of water and kind of wash it off a little bit as best I can. But if it doesn't work, that's okay. We have more. Other thing I want to show you is how you can actually simply, instead of coloring straight onto the paper with a dry colored pencil, you can take your colored pencil, your watercolor pencil, and you can dip it into the water and then start drawing with it. And that is it's a completely different effect than if you were to put water on top. It is a little bit more, I'm not sure what way to describe it. It's a little more like scratchy and blotchy, not quite as smooth, but if you want a different kind of look, if that's what you're going for, then it works out really, really well. The other way that you can use it, and this is kind of like the last way, although there are many, many ways, but is you can put a wash of water on your paper first. Okay, and then you can color onto it with your colored pencil. Now this is better if you want to create more fine lines but still have them kind of start to blend. So with this way, you're definitely not going to get the kind of watercolory look, but it does make drawing with the colored pencils very, very smooth. So that's kind of a nice, neat thing that's happening. So again, totally different. All three very, very different ways to use them, but all are very, very great. So I highly recommend you try some of these in your journal. Try them out, test it out, create some cool structure. You can do this not only on plain white watercolor paper, but on watercolor paper that you've already put watercolor on, regular watercolor. You could do it over anything that you've already drawn. It's a really, really great tool because it's not quite as messy as getting out all the watercolors. So try it out.